Okay. Welcome everyone to Nantucket Park and Recreation Commission meeting. This is the meeting of March 28th, 2017. I want to remind everybody that this meeting is audio and video recorded, so keep it clean. Okay, so are there any objections to the agenda as it's written?
No.
No? There are no objections. The agenda is adopted. Minutes. Are there any objections to the minutes as they are written?
No.
No. If there are no objections, the minutes are approved. Public comment. Do we have anybody? New business. We have Jamie Ranney. He's not here.
So Jamie Randy just called me, and he is sick, so he's unable to make it tonight, and we'll have to move it to the April meeting.
Thank you.
So was this just moved to April 20th? Is that?
Yeah,
Okay.
he just left me a voicemail.
Okay, so next we have Lucia Bronski. She's requesting to have music classes at Children's Beach.
Yeah, so I was originally wanted to request music classes in the morning at Children's Beach. Recently, I have slightly changed. I don't know if I'm allowed to change it if it's not morning that I'm talking about. But my friend Sue Riddle and I have made a TV show, and we were just wondering about getting any time at Children's Beach and how we would go about getting. Do we need to have certain dates approved for you to present to you to have you approve them? And if it wasn't consistent, are we allowed to bring it up at this meeting, or would you rather have me come back with more concrete information on the 20th?
I had referred you to the town event coordinator, Jensen.
Okay, so if it's anything that's not consistent, it's the town event coordinator.
She'll be in contact with you
Okay,
about that.
okay.
So we'll put it on the upcoming agenda.
Okay, so if it's not music in the morning, I should just wait until next meeting to bring it up.
Is this related to the music overall?
I mean, it's allotted time at Children's Beach. So we just wanted some time to be able to do certain events there.
So I'm a little confused. Are you going to have music classes? Or do you want to have music classes at Children's Beach?
No.
No. That's scratched.
So I'm saying scratch that, and I would like to come next week or next month in regards to it. Or do I talk to Carlisle Jensen about it? Okay. All right. Great. Okay. Then thank you.
So we have Kristen Brock with Safe Place Fundraiser, a walk a mile in her shoes.
She is not here.
She's not
Oh.
here. Uh-huh.
Well,
Okay. And your name?
Roger. Sorry, I haven't done this before. I just like stand here and talk.
Yeah.
Do I need to give you guys my information? I made a couple copies.
Yes,
Okay.
thank
I
you.
would
Please.
love one.
Yeah,
Okay.
we didn't
Thank
have
you. I
anything.
didn't get anything with it, so I'm not sure what the dates are or anything. Thank you.
You
Thank
to
you
tell
very much.
Kristen that I'm very upset that she couldn't make it. My name, I understand. My name is Nash. Just tell her that. She's a friend of mine.
How about like an overall summary of the event and what you're thinking? If
It's
that's
our
okay.
4th annual Walk a Mile in Her Shoes event. It's an event where we get all the men and boys from Nantucket, even anywhere, anyone who wants to join, to walk a mile in women's shoes to, I guess, promote better behavior when it comes to domestic violence against women. You know, as the saying goes, you don't know their story unless you walk a mile in their shoes. So that's the whole point of it.
Is there anything?
So it's a fundraiser to raise money for operational services for a safe place.
Is there anything different from last year's event?
Absolutely nothing is different. It's the same thing we do every year. We're hoping to get a lot more people there this year. Yeah, definitely.
Madam Chair, if I may. This has been a successful event for you for the last couple of years. I know we've, as a commission, have approved it and thought it was a very valid fundraiser. And valid and fun and unique in its own way from a guy's perspective.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's great. And you're what I'd love to see, maybe it's not there, where are you doing the walk this year?
Our last year we did there's a map here. It's a loop around town. It starts at Children's Beach. We go up Beach Street.
Yep, around and back Easton that way?
Is that Easton? We're like
No, not Easton and Hulbert Avenue.
We cross in front of the Whaling Museum and then go down Broad Street. I'm sorry, not Broad Street.
It's okay, I see it here right now.
South Water, there we go. South
Yep,
Water,
great.
up Main, down Center, then down Broad, back to Children's Beach.
And is this a weekday? Is it a Saturday?
It's on a Saturday. It starts at 10 a.m. The walk starts at 10 a.m. Actually, the walk starts at 10:30. Registration starts at 10. And everything's usually done about 12 o'clock, noon.
Parking?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a comment about
No,
parking?
I didn't know, so
Oh.
it's not an issue. So.
I wouldn't think it would be parking would be an issue.
It hasn't been an issue, and depending on the number of participants you have in your formal application, not just through us, but through the rest of the process that you go through with the town, you'll declare how many people you expect, and we'll have to identify kind of at home base, Children's Beach, make sure parking is available for people, and outline a few of those details. Now, we're not at the top of this list. We're just on the approval side of it. I think it's a great idea, but there's a permit process that you have to go through, and you have gone through for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So it should be no surprise. And there have been no events brought to our attention post fundraising that would raise any objections from my chair.
Sorry.
So are we ready for the question? So the question is on the adoption of the motion that Safe Place fundraiser to be held at Children's Beach, a walk a mile in her shoes. All in favor?
I believe we have to have a second. Sorry.
I'll second that with the dates.
Oh, yeah, second. Oh, sorry.
June 24th from 9
Okay.
to 12.
Oh, yeah,
I'll
that's it.
second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? It is moved and seconded, and the motion is adopted.
Thank you.
Is
Thank
that
you.
good? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
That's it.
Thank you.
You're all set.
Thank you.
Okay,
Would
I'll
you
t-
would you keep us updated on the rest of your application process? Let us know if you have any. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
The event has been gone through the vetting process.
Great.
A couple questions that were asked that I can address. There will be a police detail on hand, and they're also planning a. They don't estimate a parking issue. They're only estimating between 60 to 100 people at maximum, and that time of year, parking isn't necessarily a huge issue. In addition, they have asked. They're working with the film festival to make sure that it doesn't overlap any of their events. Right now, the film festival hasn't applied for any events, so they have first come, first serve. And all their permits are ready to be approved once you guys approved.
So are there any road closures?
No, there's not a road closure. They're just going to be crossing the street, so the
Okay,
police detail
using
will
the
help them
sidewalk.
cross the street. And they'll have volunteers at every intersection.
Thank you. That's great.
Next on the agenda is Jennifer Costanzo, request to hold Autism Speaks walk at Jetties Beach.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm here to request for the 11th year for the Autism Speaks annual walk. It's always held the third Saturday of August, which it will be again this year, so that date falls on August 19th. There's no changes to the walk. I don't know if you have a map of the walk. I could provide one that I have if you need it.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just hand that to you.
Just take a peek.
And this closes the road, does it?
Well, I believe we have not closed the road. It's just we have notified the neighbors. According to the sheet that I have is that we notify the neighbors that we will be walking between 7:30 a.m. until 10:30 a.m. And then we'll have, water stations for the walk at 3 different locations. We will have police detail to be determined, I believe. And we go up Bathing Beach Road to North Beach Street to Easton and then back around to Holbert Ave.
How many people do you usually have on your event?
Usually, I think last year we had around close to 200. Or it could have been more than that. I don't have the exact number because I was not in this position, last year. So, but I know it does draw, a lot of people because that is our 11th year, so it is very well established.
Any further questions?
I would just state for the record, it's great to have you back representing this organization. It has, once again, been a successful event on the island, and we have had the privilege of approving with no comments that have been negative post-event, and you've met all the obligations along the way. So my position is in favor of the event, supporting it.
Thank you.
So I move that we adopt the Jennifer Costanzo to hold Autism Speaks at Jetties Beach.
May I second that motion? Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So Jennifer stands adopted for
Great.
Autism Speaks to hold their event at Jetties Beach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's don't rush it. Okay,
Don't
Georgia
have the map.
Snell.
The map.
Oh. No, that's okay. Thank you.
And then I had a quick question that didn't have anything to do with it, but I do have a quick question on it. Where is it in relation to the race week? Is race week the week before then?
It's the same week. Opera House is the next day. And it's always...
Okay, so it's a Saturday event, and then Opera House is Sunday, right? Okay.
Okay. In your packet, there's a letter from Becky Saucer, who is the leader for Super Kids. She was unable to make this meeting, but on her behalf, I'm submitting this letter. It's a request to have the 37th Annual Scripture Union Super Kids Beach Mission at Jetties Beach. The dates are July 24th through 28th from 10:30 to 12:30. They're aiming to set up around 9:30, and anticipating around 20 to 25 children participating in this event. It is something that we have presented to the new concessionaires because they will be now serving breakfast, and they're willing and happy to continue the tradition. They are set up on the kind of the beach grassy area right near the beach shop. So it's to the left of their serving area, so it should not interfere with their breakfast offerings. And the event has been approved by the town, and we're just waiting for your all's approval and comments or thoughts on it.
That sounds like a very nice event, and it's been going on for 37 years. Where have I been?
I know.
I used to ride my bicycle when I was a kid in the summertime every morning down to, it was CSSM, Children's Sand and Surf Mission then, on the beach. And been going on a long time.
And Reverend Snell is the point person this year, so she's going to be handling the registration and will be on hand during the events.
So is this just because I'm unfamiliar with it, is this where parents drop kids off then?
Yes.
So it's sort of a supervised?
Yes, it's supervised. Okay. They have, I think, depending on how many kids sign up, that amount of staff and volunteers will be present.
Okay.
What age are they?
To be honest, I'm not 100% sure. That question did not come up. I'm assuming they're old enough to be on their own. That sort of
elementary, so you'd think like that starts around 6 and goes to 9, 10?
12.
I think 12 or so.
Yeah, probably. Okay. Depending on whether you include 6th grade and elementary or not.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve for Georgia Snell to hold the Super Kids Camp at Jetties Beach.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion has been approved for Super Kids to hold their kids camp at Jetties Beach. Thank you. Okay, Mark Boyd. See here.
There he is.
This is interesting.
Hiding in the back.
Good evening, Mark Voigt with the facilities, the DPW. So you have, I hope, some packet information.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you have any questions, otherwise I can give a brief synopsis if you prefer.
I had pre-read it, so I only came up with a couple of things. One, yay. But I was also wondering about the wheel well, the wheels, whether there would be a cover on that. Just I'm thinking kids, it'll be something kids will climb on, potentially.
Yeah, so I don't know how much information's in your packet. There are some specifications. This trailer actually lowers to the ground with those wheels, so they are still exposed, but there can be possibly some covers to the wheels. We plan to do some. This is the first time, obviously, having this particular piece of equipment, and so we'll have to figure some things out. But we certainly don't want any damage to occur or anybody to get hurt on those. So there are some things we could do as we go to install it that we want to make it focus on, using the facilities as opposed to some other piece of equipment that becomes a attractive nuisance or something like that. So.
Right.
You can make a bench out of it. That's
Yeah,
a piece of wood.
we've looked at some planters that would be substantial enough not to be easily moved, but would provide some, foliage that be helpful to help blend it in. So we're exploring those options. But that's a good point.
I wasn't so concerned about the aesthetics of it so much as the exposure to salt and seawater and dogs.
So Did the town purchase this, or are we leasing it?
Purchase.
We purchased it, so.
We looked at the options for leasing, and they're very limited, especially considering that any of them that were judged as viable would have to come from off island. They wouldn't even think about it. They just wouldn't. They just can't make the service. So someone here would have to purchase it for us to lease, and that wasn't something that fit in the time frame, and it was a lot more negotiations if that was going to happen.
And do you have any idea what it cost? I'm just curious.
It's just under $50,000. This is one of the, I would say, one of the best that we saw, that I investigated, looking for all the potential amenities that we were looking for, something that's going to resist the weather, something that's durable, something that's low maintenance, has a good appeal as far as one of these goes. There's a lot of things to it. It can be used remotely. That means it can be used at a Tom Nevers or any of the other locations that, restrooms are tough to supply at any special events. And it's, like I said, it's low maintenance. It has a lot of features that the other ones didn't have. So there are lesser cost versions, but we felt like that was the best one.
So I have a quick question. So is the town going to service it then?
Yeah, so it's actually...
I mean, as far as the...
Cleaning?
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
The cleaning and the septic sucking systems. I don't know.
Yes, the
You know what I
emptying.
mean?
We'll
That
call it
part.
the emptying, the filling and the emptying.
Yeah.
So we've already begun. We've put that in we have a cleaning contract, and that will be part of that.
And how many times a day do they get cleaned in the summer? Just
I think we only have it in there once by the contractor, and then the concessionaire is also responsible, so we have an overlap.
and then, I mean, this is a nice temporary solution, but is there a long-term plan to, or maybe a short-term plan to improve the existing building?
So I don't know how familiar you are with what's occurred up to this point, but in a nutshell, we have a temporary situation where we have a bunch of porta potties that go out to Children's Beach, and that's a temporary solution that's gone quite some time. So the longer-term solution was to have a building addition that was designed, planned, and went out to bid, and it was significantly over budget. And this is an intermediate solution.
So when do you think the opportunity will be to kind of review, I guess, looking at repairing the old structure again? Like, this would be temporary for how long, possibly?
It's always hard to tell because, the word temporary takes on, different meaning for different people. My impression is this helps us get to a position where we can look at the viability of having that permanent solution. And then this can be used other places. There's also another approach that could be looked at that's separate from the building that's there now. So there are other things that I've looked at that are different than the conventional approach of just putting an addition on the building, which is going to continue to increase in price. It's not going to go down.
Yep.
Because that's just the nature of the beast. And so there are some other things that we could try and do. So this is not offered as a permanent solution, but I don't want to give you some kind of, say that temporary only means 1 year or 2 years.
Sure.
I don't know how long it will be.
Yep. I mean, me personally, I'm glad to see that at least there's a handicap access, ramp going up to. That's certainly an improvement, and regardless, an improvement over the porta potties. But I can't help but think, long term, look more towards that because, world class beach, it should reflect accordingly to all those that come to see it. So, look forward to improvements over the long term for sure.
And that's been the sentiment throughout.
Yeah.
Everyone would prefer the long-term solution, but when they look at the costs, then we start to lose support.
I like the location too. Last year you had the porta potties out by the street, And I think to move it back behind the building is,
Right, and so fencing is going to go with that. There's some indication on the site plan. We'll have a little bit of fencing that will screen it to,
the yacht club.
the yacht club's already sort of screened because they're going to have wind screens for their tennis courts, and it's really sort of, they've got boats, and I mean, it's not going to look a whole lot different than a gel coat of a boat versus a gel coat of a trailer. They're all white, essentially, and it sort of blends in that way. But towards the center recreational area of Children's Beach, we wanted to be sensitive to. So, again, we want to have some
People
screening,
coming
fencing
and
for
going.
privacy as well as some aesthetics.
Because I sort of like that you can see them.
I think
that
we don't
they
want to hide
say,
them, but we want them.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Use me.
Yeah, we're not going to paint it yellow or anything
Right.
neon. So
Nash?
Thank you very much for putting something together to have down at Children's Beach, first and foremost. Secondly, you mentioned briefly moving it around to different events as might be necessary. That would be removing all bathroom facilities from Children's Beach while another special event was going on.
I'm not sure I understand that
You
completely.
mentioned that as a trailer and part of the capital expenditure, it's justified because you could move it and use it for other events that were necessary.
Right.
I got the impression that was not just Children's Beach.
Will you,
Its primary intent is to be at Children's Beach during the season. Does that answer your question?
Yes. And off-season? Well, yes, yes, absolutely it does. But I just want to make sure it's not something that's pulled away in the summertime because something's happening somewhere else. And
There's
it's
been no
necessary.
discussion, so there's no intent to take it. It's primarily for Children's Beach. I haven't heard anything else that would trump that for something that's more important to take it to.
I'd
think
just
it was
like to
all
go on
discussion.
record that
Yeah.
it should stay there for
Yeah.
Children's Beach season and have that timeline delineated.
would it be there all year, like year-round?
The intent was not to have it there all year. We'd preferably like to store it somewhere in the wintertime.
Okay, so
But
would
as
it
it-
stay till mid-October?
Yeah, I think
Or
what's the whatever we would look at whatever the
Stroll?
last festival, but there are events at Tom Nevers. I mean, there are restroom facilities out there, but they sometimes are depending on how events go other places. It provides us some flexibility to lessen the impact in those areas. So it can easily be pulled from Children's Beach in the off season, say after Labor Day if there was a festival. I don't know all the festival dates, so and then it can be brought back. So if there's a festival somewhere on the weekend that's not at Children's Beach and somewhere else, it can easily be moved. And then in the wintertime, we really haven't made a decision about where it's going to go. Ideally, it would be housed somewhere. It may be at our offices, as we may have to do some upgrades or something, or just maintenance
Yeah.
or storage. But
I would think it would be important to keep it at Children's Beach through the plunge that they have, right? The
Turkey plunge.
turkey plunge.
Yeah.
yeah, I think that was
That's the last big event at the
yeah.
beach.
I think the intent is to have it there for again, there are, I don't want to say sporadic, but there are events, bigger events at Children's Beach up to a certain time, but they're not from Labor Day through Thanksgiving. It's not a continuous
Yeah.
Right.
need. So if there's a need that's higher somewhere else, it gives us the flexibility to try and see what that can do. And again, we're just getting into it, so we don't really, we want to also try these things out to see how this will perform, how it will work. So it's going to be a trial year.
And how early in the season would you bring it?
I believe we have mid-May.
Okay, because the first event we have is the Daffodil Hat
Yeah, I would think
Parade,
April.
right?
This year I doubt that we'll have.
But there are 2 bathrooms already in the building, correct?
Do they work
Yes,
In the building, so these are in addition to the 2 existing
correct.
bathrooms.
But are they open in April?
They will be open for Daffodil.
Oh, they will?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in the contract for the concessionaire.
Okay.
They are not currently open. We don't open them in the concession areas because of the potential of freezing pipes.
Oh, yeah.
So they're closed for now.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have any further debate?
No, I'm fine. I'm very, very pleased that this was done. Again, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I really appreciate your research on this. I think that was a great solution, and thanks for running with it.
Sure. Great.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we'll see how it goes, and we're hoping for a good outcome on the service. So.
Yeah. Us too.
Great.
So
Do
the
you
question-
need to approve anything, or is it just
Yeah, we're
more
gonna do that right
information?
now.
Okay.
So the question is to approve the restrooms at Children's Beach. All in favor? Oh, is there a second?
Well, I don't know whether this is really a permission.
It's
Or
an
an
update.
It's an
Oh,
up.
it's an
It's
update.
more of an update,
Oh, okay.
and I think that my statement would be we support the town's effort as a commission to provide the quality of services that we think are necessary at Children's Beach.
Yeah, that would be welcome, just
Okay.
because we want to respond to the needs that are down there. So,
Yeah.
And you have. Thank you.
cool.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Have a good evening.
You too.
Okay, so old business, the MOU discussion.
Madam Chairman, I just wanted to make you aware, as it was in your packet, the memorandum of understanding was discussed on the February 28th agenda, or at the meeting, and the commission members had a lot of questions. And as you can tell from the email that's in your packet, we have withdrawn it for the time being, to give enough time for this all to develop. So that's therefore the management of Children's Beach for the summer 2017 is going to stay with our office.
So, but it said in that packet that you guys were going to continue to discuss it for
Ye-
2018.
Yes, yeah, it's still being considered for 2018. We give enough time for this all to be
Mhm.
planned out.
Right. So, is there any
And-
way that one or two of us on the commission could be a part of
I'm sure
the
we can-
discussion?
You can
Yeah.
get together with Melissa and discuss it further. If you have concerns, I'm sure that she'd be happy to be available
Okay.
to discuss it, as she's offered to
Okay.
in the interim. But just for the time being, for 2017, everything is going to be planned by us and taken care of and managed by us.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
I'm sorry, I just have a quick question, David. Do we have our concession person lined up? That was still in question prior for?
Yes,
We do.
That concessionaire
Okay.
is currently off island, and she will be at the April 20th meeting.
Okay,
So that will be.
great. Okay. I just wasn't sure where we were with that. Last I knew it was still.
Yeah, it's just we're trying to
Up
make
in
sure
the
that
air.
everybody's all together at the same time.
Sure.
Because between her, Greg Tivnan, who's the procurement manager, and so they'd be there together to answer questions for you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, may I make a note for the record that we gladly will recognize that the MOU was withdrawn from consideration for this meeting, and will withhold any comment because it's not an active issue until we have representatives here who can speak on behalf of it.
Sounds great. Okay, so shall we move on to approval to the use of Jetties Beach for the Opera House Awards Party? My favorite.
I have to recuse myself.
You have to recuse yourself. So tell us.
I'm Diana Brown from Nantucket Community Sailing. This is the 45th Annual Opera House Cup Regatta and Awards Party. We've been holding the party at Jetties Beach since 1999. And so I was here on January 19th to request permission. And while I had informal approval of the commissioners present, we didn't have a quorum because Nash recused himself and Campbell was on the phone. so I'm very grateful to, one, for you guys for rescheduling this special meeting, and two, for you being here. So thank you. So what I'm asking for is your permission to allow us to hold the awards party and dinner on Sunday evening, August 20th, at the Jetties Beach restaurant area. I've already signed a contract with Sandbar. They are going to run the bar for us, and we are going to set up very similar to how we did last year, if you've got that in your packet with the diagram. So we're going to be set up outside the restaurant proper. They will keep the restaurant open. One of the big things is that we are using pretty much all the same vendors that we've used in the past. Nantucket Tents, Nantucket native Dylan Wallace doing the food. He does an amazing job. Spanky's Raw Bar, perfect day for the band. And so we feel like we've got a really great group of vendors and partners that we work with. The one change this year from last year is last year we dramatically shrunk the party at Marshall Thompson's request to 350 people, and it meant that not all of our competitors could even attend, and this is their awards party. And so we had 57 boats in the regatta last year, and on any given boat we have a range from 2 people to 20 people on the boat, and we need to be able to accommodate the competitors because this is for them. And so in talking with the town permitting and events people and in talking with the Sandbar guys, they agreed that we could have 500 guests, plus we expect to have some volunteers. We can still manage the parking because we're going to provide free shuttle service back and forth to Jetties, and we will do everything we can to work with the Sandbar guys so that we don't interact or interfere with their restaurant operations. So unless you have specific questions, I'd ask for your approval.
I just have one quick question on the map. Is there a bar in the tent that the Sandbar restaurant is going to maintain, or are people going back and forth?
No, the bars are actually in this tent right here. There's some bars
Okay.
where the award stage is and the band.
Okay.
And there's also another bar in the food tent.
Great, but they'll be maintaining that.
But they will be
so it'll
maintaining
be-
that, and we're using
okay.
their liquor license. Yeah, so the
Okay,
only
super.
people go in the restaurant if they wanted to buy a drink that we weren't offering at the party or to use the restrooms. We will also have additional porta-johns as determined by the health department.
Okay.
So I was at the party last year, and I did think, well, on our boat, there was a number of people that couldn't get on, come to the party because of the lack of tickets. And I felt like it was very small, like there wasn't enough people there.
Yeah.
And with the food, everything was amazing. You guys do the best job. It's probably one of the nicer events on Nantucket.
Thank you.
And of
We've
course
grown
they-
a lot.
So, any more questions, comments? So, I make a motion that we adopt we approve the use of Jetties Beach for the Opera House Awards Party for their 47th
I'll second that.
year. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Oh, you recuse. I feel like you're not speaking.
Thank you.
You're approved.
Thank you very much.
Excited.
She was going to represent me last week.
Okay, so we're
So we are
okay. Nash, you're on for the CPC update.
Madam Chair, I have not much to report. We've had one meeting with CPC has involved me in quite a few projects that have no relevance to Park and Rec.
I know one. I thought I saw that there was $100,000 that is coming up, I guess, for town approval at the meeting on Saturday for the playgrounds at Tom Nevers, to improve and maintain the playgrounds.
That would be town funds and not necessarily an application that went through CPC. I'm not familiar with that. I could be too. I'm not familiar with that allocation.
Okay.
I know that the town has to, we encourage the town to submit applications just like anybody else does for capital improvement projects. For instance,
Maybe that's
there was a request for money to replace the Sconset flagpole in the square. That I did not get approval this time, because we were really focusing on housing and the demands for that. One of the items that's come up in the past that we will continue to discuss that is relevant to our commission is some type of pavilion or structure that can be built at the new Nobodere Farm playing fields that would provide bathrooms, shade, something for the kids on site other than a temporary pop-up tent to get kids out of the sun, and a cot and jugs of ice water that volunteers and coaches bring themselves. We have a temporary structure out there now used primarily for storage, just a classic Nantucket shed. There was a plan quite some time ago, I'm going to say more than 5 years ago, perhaps 5 years ago, for a simple concrete structure with bathrooms. And
what happened to that?
it turned into a whole lot more because I think there were too many chefs in the kitchen. And like projects similar to the Children's Beach fixed structure bathrooms, the design bid build concept balloons, much to everyone's surprise, to be a lot more than anyone would expect. So each one of these projects ends up being considered seriously, and then the numbers come in because there are guidelines that have to be followed because it's a town and subsequently it's a state project in some way. And I don't know all the specifics of those guidelines, but I do know that they inflate the costs of construction. We at CPC, and I've been talking to Mark Voigt about this, are looking at different structures that the town may be willing to fund themselves or apply for funds to construct for our fields. One being just a simple pavilion, open pavilion that will provide shade that would look nice and run with portable johns, much like I think Mark has presented here for Children's Beach. Again, a temporary solution because we really have nothing right now. And the idea of knowing what the timeline of a temporary solution is very difficult to nail down.
But a pavilion would seem like a fairly basic structure in my mind. I mean, it's somewhat like a pole barn.
You know, you'd think that a concrete structure with three bathrooms and ADA, male, female bathrooms with a little bit of a sunshade would be a simple structure too.
That's what Luke
An awning
Thornwell-
off the back side of the
It just
porta
doesn't.
potty.
It
They
doesn't
didn't design
happen
that in this
the
one.
way
No.
we think it's going to happen when we start with the design. People, too many chefs in the kitchen. People say, well, it needs this, and it should have that. And let's design this in. Let's see how much that will cost if we do this. And we start going off on a tangent. And it's very difficult to get back to an original design. And that's where we are with that. And CPC would encourage the town to review their most basic or original plans to see if that's a possibility, in addition to any new ideas they may have.
How much land is out there in addition to where the soccer fields are?
That is to allow fields to be expanded?
Or tennis courts?
I don't have an answer to that. I think we designed the best use for the land that we were given permission to use by the airport
Oh, it's
authority.
airport
It's
land.
airport land. And now the focus is really just the proper maintenance of those fields over the last couple of years. And I don't see our position championing an area of tennis courts in that area when it's primarily used for youth field sports right now.
Okay. So, moving on, any more comments or questions about the CPC?
No, I think, like, for me, this town council opinion really plays heavy on what we really actually could do or say anywhere. So I sort of need
can we
clarity on that.
That's,
So I'm just making that as a comment to commenting on the no-bid fields or
okay. This,
um,
yeah, I know exactly.
anything.
So, you know, on the town's website, it shows who's in charge, who's the owner of each of these parks and beaches, right? It also says the mission.
Excuse me, are we on the creative use of public parks?
Oh, no,
or
we're skipping that
still-
right now.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I think before we can talk about those,
Right.
we need to figure out where our jurisdiction lies.
Madam Chair's call.
Yeah,
What
I
we
agree. I
discussed.
think we should skip that until we know
Mhm.
that we have some clarity. And then it talks about the mission of the Park and Rec Commission. It says to maintain its beaches and parks in the best possible condition to serve residents and visitors, to create and manage recreational programs that serve islanders. Then we have the Park and Rec Commission, and it says about the committee, the commission makes park and recreation related policies and recommendations to the Board of Selectmen on various related projects, programs, and activities and initiatives. But it's, you know, and then we have Greg Tiverton, who Brian Riley has written us, and says that we are only responsible for the garbage at cleaning the beach at Nantucket and the playground at Jetties Beach and Children's Beach, the construction at Children's Beach. So to me, there's all this thing that it doesn't make any sense. So I feel I feel like if I don't know if we go to the town, to Libby, or to the Board of Selectmen and ask if maybe all the parks, maybe all the town parks, like Mill Hill Park, Winter Park, Coffin Park, and the other parks that we are, Tom Nevers, Jetties Beach, and Children's Beach Park, could all be under Park and Rec, because it's so confusing, and none of it makes sense.
Madam Chairman, just so you, if you're aware of that Greg Tivnan and Brian Turbot are going to be here to discuss the concession and will be available to discuss any financial matters regarding this on the next meeting, April 20th.
Right.
So I would suggest maybe tabling the discussion until that time.
Well, I sort of feel like we have to get some, and maybe it's not here, I don't know, but I feel like at some point I need to talk to these people about what all of this means to get a consensus among our group about what we're reading.
Could
Does
we
that
put
make
that on the
sense?
agenda for next meeting?
Well,
To just kind of incorporate
It's
that
planned,
discussion?
Just to
It's
get
planned
some
for the
ideas so
agenda.
that
Sure.
when we're
Yeah.
talking to them,
It's
we
on
are
our
at least
agenda now.
focused in our questions and not sort of all over the place. Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair. You mentioned next month's meeting and addressing finances, and there was another item you mentioned that Greg was going to talk.
concession
The
stand,
concessions.
the update
I'd
on
like
that.
to have it go on record that we would like them to be able to address the discrepancies in the language of the information that Cheryl has just brought to our attention.
And then
As to-
all
as
that,
to what-
yeah, because all that
what
is
we are-
publicly available language.
what we are responsible for, what town thinks we're responsible for, what we believe we're responsible for, and address the town council's response and review of our charter back in 2014, and the details.
I mean, that charter says nothing about Tom Nevers, but Tom Nevers says it's under
That's being my point. Adding to the concession and finances, the specifics and the clarity of
That
responsibility.
will probably be, still under old business here. That
Absolutely,
That's
fine. But I would just like
Okay.
the town representatives to be aware that we would like them to be able to discuss
Yeah.
that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm not sure how we can, even as the charter gives us Children's Beach, Jetties Beach, and Nantucket Beach, but we're fully defunded. Correct? Correct. Okay, so, and we have this MOU coming up, which is another shift of previous park and rec responsibilities to what is currently being called the Nantucket Community School, which I was under the impression.
MOU is not a main focus at this point.
Yeah,
That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about responsibilities that have been perceived anyway here. And that was one of my thoughts when looking over this MOU and the towns, eventually within a year and a half to 2 years funding Nantucket Community School with an extra $50,000 to $70,000 a year.
I have to make point of issue here. The MOU has been withdrawn.
Yes.
And so
And
it
cannot
is
discuss
not
it,
for discussion.
It cannot be discussed at this
Okay.
moment since we've already passed the discussion on before.
Thank you.
When they
Okay.
present, when they are here to speak to
That's
the
fine.
issue.
It's
that's
obviously,
okay.
I'm not going to get this straightened out. I'm just trying to get in
Oh,
my
you
own
will.
head
It just,
what's going on,
we
and I
will.
don't seem
You'll
to be.
have to.
I'm going to express my frustration in not being able to discuss anything with anyone about anything.
Madam Chairman,
And that is obviously creating tension in me, and I'm having difficulty
Well,
leaving everything out when it keeps coming back together. So
okay, so next
It's
meeting, we're going to
obviously
get the
something-
town officials here to help us decipher this and try to move in a positive way and see if the town would be willing to let us take over the other parks under our purview, so that, and actually list on the website, if we're making decisions about Nogadere Farm playing fields, that it's actually under us and it's not anywhere in here. So, it really, we do need some
Okay.
clarity, and I think we can move forward, and, now that we're all here, and we'll try to,
well, I will let
Make
you
it
lead
better.
on the clarity, and I will leave my lack of clarity to myself.
is there any further business? Okay. Meeting is adjourned.
May I just, a matter of protocol, motion to adjourn?
Oh,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
okay, so I read one thing on the Roberts rules, that you didn't have to do that on the adjournment.